Hello there, everyone. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Today, we are doing some more work with my tiers, and here to break down best ball wide receiver is John Hesterman. John, thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invite. Looking forward to this. This can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, they seem to be fun. I've only seen them done one or two times before, and I thought it was something to try out, and it seems to be pretty entertaining. The receivers can be a mess all over the place. Before we get into it, though, you want to take a second here and tell everyone where they can find your work.
Yeah, you can find me over on Twitter at John_Hesterman because I'm really, really clever. You can find my dynasty work is over at DLF, and during the season my DFS work is with Fantasy Pros. So
nice. I have seen quite a bit of the DLF work as I've had to retweet it. Didn't see as much of the Fantasy Pros work yet, but we're not in redraft season, so I guess I'll have to check it out.
It's coming.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining me. I guess we will get right into it. It's wide receiver, so as usual, it's a real fight against the clock. We'll start it off here with Davante Adams. Which tier do you want him in?
I've got Davante in what would be the good tier on the tier maker you've got here.
So 3. Yep. Yeah, there's it's not a dynasty tier here, so nothing too much to say there. Hopefully Jimmy G doesn't have too much of an impact. Does that worry you at all?
I mean, a little bit. The foot thing worries me a little bit. Davante's openness about being a little skeptical about the offense worries me a little bit. The fact that he's on the wrong side of 30 worries me a little bit. So there's some things there to take into account. I don't doubt the man's talent. He didn't look like he lost a step last year, but there's other factors at play here that are cause for concern.
That's a scary situation where our biggest concern is that he no longer has Derek Carr. Never thought I'd hear those words, but
right.
Yeah. Moving on, we've got Jordan Addison.
I like Jordan Addison a lot. I want to put him in the good range right away. I'm a little skeptical to do so, but I think he belongs there. So for the time being, let's put him there because he is someone that I believe he's going to transition well.
Yeah, I think the majority of the highly drafted rookie receivers probably fall into this category. They're rookies, so they're not going to be reliable in season long, but for best ball purposes, they're definitely all going to have their blow-up games from time to time. And, there's probably a game or two where they're going to bracket coverage Justin Jefferson, and Addison's going to break off a couple of long ones. So I don't disagree with it at all. Moving on, we have Brandon Ayuk.
He also belongs in that good category. He is someone that I'm probably a little bit higher than the market on right now for best ball format. Mm-hmm. We saw some really good things out of him last year. We saw it click no matter which quarterback he was working with. So I really like him at cost, and I think he's a really good wide receiver. So I like him in best ball format quite a bit.
Don't feel bad whether it's running back or wide receiver or regardless of format. These good and average tiers tend to fill out real quick. So we're going to see a whole bunch of them. Moving on, we've got Keenan Allen.
Great.
Ooh, I like it. Not worried about the age?
Not in that offense. As long as he's healthy, he's going to command, a 20 plus, 22 plus % target share. That's not anything to be ashamed about or worried about putting on your roster as long as he's healthy.
I love it, especially with where he's currently going in drafts. He seems to be the man nobody wants. A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown belongs in the elite tier, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can argue that. A.J. Brown is not my favorite of the elite group. He always frustrates the hell out of me. Every time I need him, he's either injured or puts up a total dud, but even I can't argue elite. Moving on to someone a little more peculiar, we have Treylon Burks.
Treylon Burks, I want to say good, but for the time being, I'm going to put in the average range just because we didn't see enough from him last season in that offense. There's questions at quarterback already. We don't know how that chemistry is going to work. It's not a high pass volume offense, so I'm cautiously I'm going to put him in average. I want to say good, but I think he belongs there for the time being.
Yeah, I feel like that grade's more of an incomplete, where crappy offense, too many injuries, you can't really accurately assess what he is. So
TBD, that's what he is.
Exactly. One that is not incomplete, Jamar Chase.
Elite.
I can't really argue that.
Yeah, no hesitation. When he's out there, when he's healthy, he's just a monster. So it's hard to ignore that.
I agree. Amari Cooper.
Good.
All right. I feel like we should have a split here. Amari Cooper in the road jersey and Amari Cooper in the home jersey. I think the home would probably be elite. The road would be bad. But for now, we'll leave him as good. So
no, that's fair. Then we should probably settle on him at average and just drop him in there and call him that, depending on where he's playing.
But at least he's really easy to decide when you want to start him or sit him. Just look at where the team plays. If he's at home, you play him. If he's on the road, you bench him. So
and his DFS value didn't change drastically based on that determination last year. So he was in a lot of rosters that wanted me a lot of money. So yeah, I dig it.
Stephon Diggs. Speaking of digging it,
elite
transition. Elite. All right.
Elite.
Fair enough. I'm not worried about the current situation. He seems to be pissy about a contract, is it? Or
that whole thing, the way that Twitter lost their mind over that, and the coaching staff came out and basically said it was a non-issue, and media took off with it, and that's all it takes is a little spark on Twitter, and you got a brush fire, and no one can put it out until something comes from the lips of Shefty or Ian Rappaport. So
that's what really weird. The first tweet said something like they were really worried he wasn't there, and then the next tweet said, "Oh no, he's been there. He just hasn't been." Like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I don't know if he's looking to prove a point or what. But
when on the field, he's an elite receiver.
Absolutely. Jahan Dotson.
John Dotson. I'm gonna put him in the average range for the time being. I like what I saw last year on limited playtime. Obviously, the quarterback situation was a problem. The quarterback situation may still be a problem. So he's another that's more of a TBD, but I like what I saw when he was getting consistent targets and kind of a focal point of the offense.
Yeah, you seem to be the low man on him. He seems to be shooting up draft boards everywhere, but he's probably another one TBD. Back-to-back Buccaneers here. We have Evans and Godwin.
How do you put Evans and Godwin anywhere but in the great tier based on the body of work? Now, I know the question for best ball for this season for redraft is what is the quarterback situation going to be? But Mike Evans has done it with anybody, everybody. What is it? 7 straight seasons of 1,000 yards, something in that range. I mean, just the guy consistently gets it done. Godwin was a target machine last year, despite coming off an injury. You just got to get someone to chuck the ball near one of these two guys, and you're going to have success. So I like their odds. I like their cost right now. Their cost is down because of the questions about the quarterback. So they're going in relatively good ranges, especially Mike Evans. He's dropped a lot in best ball. So I like him there.
I think if this were a seasonal league where we have to set a lineup, I might move Evans down one tier because I think he's going to be more inconsistent. But for best ball, he's right up there and great because, he'll put up that 42-point week once you've already been eliminated from your fantasy playoffs. So
exactly.
T. Higgins.
He's tough. I want to put him in great, but he's got that pesky Jamar Chase problem.
I've heard of that guy.
Yeah. So I'm going to settle on good. Yeah. He's good plus. He's one of those guys where if something were to happen and Chase were to miss time, he's immediately, vaulted up a tier. Definitely someone I want as high as he's going in drafts. Like it's harder to justify with Jamar Chase, but you do have Joe Burrow that can distribute the ball quite a bit. So I like him. I'd like him a little cheaper in best ball, but he's still someone that I have plenty of shares of because when he's on the field, he's going to command attention, especially if Jamar Chase is being, bracketed and double covered and whatnot. So I do like him quite a bit. T. Higgins is very good.
Originally, I thought I saw it as a 1A, 1B situation, but the further we get into Chase's career, the more I think he set himself apart from Higgins. And I think ultimately Higgins is going to need to go somewhere else in free agency to really get up to that elite or great tier.
I
don't
believe
mind
it's possible for him. That's the thing is I believe the talent is definitely there.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Jalen Waddle.
Is that Jalen Waddle?
It is, isn't it? No, it's not.
No,
It's Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek
Sorry.
Hill, yeah.
Thank you. I just seen the Dolphins color and I didn't even look at the face.
Yeah.
You're right. Thank you. It's Tyreek
sure, no
Hill.
problem.
Waddle's like below him and over to the left or to the right. Thank you, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
Long day.
Definitely elite. I want to put him in that elite thing. He's a game changer. He's someone that can be minimally involved and almost non-existent for half the game, 3/4 of the game, and then just erupt and make it all work in the fourth quarter. Like he is, and in best ball format, you want all the spike weeks, and he can do that. He can do that with the absolute best of them. So he belongs in that range. He was great last year with a healthy Tua, and he maintained when Tua wasn't available. So I like him as a kind of a foolproof plan at the wide receiver position.
Hollywood Brown.
Good.
DeAndre Hopkins, the man without a team.
He's going to land somewhere. Someone's going to pay the guy. We know what he's capable of. He did it last year at age 30. I believe he was playing his age 30 season. And when healthy and on the field, he was still dominating. Let's put him in that great tier.
He is going to land somewhere, but man, is there a difference between Buffalo, KC, or New England?
Right.
Good God. I don't even need to ask you this one. Justin Jefferson's elite.
Yeah, we're not asking.
I'll skip it. Jerry
Jeudy. Let's put him right there with the good crew. I like what we saw last year. Now, obviously, Russell Wilson was a problem, but Jerry Jeudy, actually, if I remember correctly, his PPR points per game were more than DK Metcalf. Not by a huge margin. It was a small margin, but he was there. He was that consistent. So I like Jeudy. I think another year in the system, another year with his quarterback, a quarterback who obviously was embarrassed about the way he played last year. I'm looking for Jeudy to really have probably his best season coming up.
If I remember correctly, he finished on a pretty good hot streak. I think he was wide receiver 5 or 7 or something over the last 6 to 8 weeks. I don't have the exact numbers, but
yeah, I don't have the exact in front of me either. But he definitely ended like we have been expecting him to play since he was drafted.
Exactly. Good discount now too. Deontay Johnson.
He belongs in that good category. Good players demand targets, and he demands targets. Not all targets are created equal, but he demands targets, and volume is king. He will have a game where he blows up enough to make the investment worth it in best ball format. So I like him.
Very well said. JSN.
I want to slam him right there in that good range too. I think he's in a position to immediately have some relevance. And all it takes is an injury to one of the other receivers in that offense, and his target share is going to go up. He's a crisp route runner. He's a good complement on the outside, can play inside. Like I believe he's versatile enough to be a force on a team that already has 2 very, very good wide receivers. So I kind of like him in that range.
Yeah, there's just not going to be enough defenders to cover him. So he's going to have some blow-up games, that's for sure. Christian Kirk.
I love Christian Kirk. I want to say good, but I believe he belongs kind of in average right now. I believe there's going to be a little bit of a reckoning with Calvin Ridley coming to town, and it's not going to be right away. I think he's going to step into what he was doing last year, which is really good volume. But I believe as Calvin Ridley gets his sea legs back, we're going to see a dramatic shift there. And I think Christian Kirk may be on the wrong side of that. So he's someone that if I get him in the right range, I'll take him. But I'm less bullish on him this year than I was last year.
Cooper Kupp,
elite. He actually led wide receivers in PPR points per game last season until the injury at age 30. I mean, he just turned 30, didn't he? At age 29. So yeah, he's still going to command the football. He's still going to get open at will. He's still going to do it as long as he's healthy, as long as Stafford's healthy.
I know the answer, but I'm going to perform a little experiment here. What was Cooper Kupp's injury?
Wasn't it an oblique?
No, to end the season last year.
Yeah, it was like I thought it was oblique or thigh contusion.
High ankle sprain.
Was it high ankle sprain?
Yes, but well, some form of ankle sprain. But that wasn't even my point. My point was that I have done like 4 or 5 of these wide receivers, and I can't figure out why he's falling so far in drafts. In every one of the 4 or 5 wide receiver tiers I've done, every person who's come on, the experts, all think he's out with an ACL. That's why his stock is falling so much. For some reason, even the guys I work with, family, every league I'm in, there seems to be this misconception that he had a torn ACL last year, and that's why
I knew it was a leg injury, but I didn't think it was ACL. But
no, but that's the misconception. Everyone thinks it's ACL. Even like I had an LA Rams fan who was an analyst on the show last week, and he said, "Oh, I'm kind of worried about the torn ACL," and I said, "It's not an ACL, man. It's an ankle." And he could have been back, but they rested him because they were. There was
no reason to play him at that point.
Exactly. So I am buying the fake ACL tear here, I guess, and
for sure.
I'll just take the discount. All right, let's get back on track. CD Lamb.
Elite, no question.
Fair enough. The other Seahawk, Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett, great. I think he's in the great category. He's actually averaged over the last 2 seasons more PPR points per game than his counterpart, and he still keeps falling in drafts. Part of what makes him great is the cost. You're getting this guy 3 rounds later than you should be able to get him, and he's going to consistently put up points. If he's on the field, he's scoring points. So, yeah, he belongs in that tier.
But like, I feel like the phrase "he's better in best ball" was invented for people describing Tyler Lockett. I never heard it until we started talking about Tyler Lockett. Now everyone who's inconsistent has that, but we'll move on to his counterpart. I'll skip ahead here. DK Metcalf.
DK Metcalf belongs in that great conversation as well. What he has a different style to his game, that vertical threat, that big guy. He's bigger, he's stronger, and he's faster than everyone else around him. Once that gets completely unlocked with how they operate and utilize him, and they do to some degree, but I think there's more things you could scheme up for this guy. He could be like an unstoppable force that's going to score double-digit touchdowns every single season like clockwork.
I kind of like the way this Seahawks offense looks. They've got some good weapons there. Drake London.
Good. Anybody with that target share deserves to be in the good range. I know it was like, there wasn't a whole lot of other options at the time, but that hasn't changed drastically enough to move away from the volume that he's going to see, which was still very good when Kyle Pitts was on the field. So you got to roll with it.
So he's good because the target share. I assume he's not great because the passing volume is just not there. So
the volume is down. The quarterback's a little shaky. Like we're going to have to see a big stride from Desmond Ridder. But the games that we saw Ridder and Drake London, they were starting to build on a chemistry that saw them being able to read each other a little bit. And I was seeing some growth and some chemistry there. So I do think it's going to be a little bit better. I want to see, like you said, more. There's just not enough volume to get super excited yet.
Next up, we have Terry McLaurin. I've been staring at this picture for the last 30 seconds, and I couldn't remember his name. I don't know why.
Man, he is a quarterback away from being great, so we're going to put him in good. I mean, that's been the story of his career. He's a quarterback away.
Yeah, he just seems like one of those players. Like, is he the new Allen Robinson? He's just never going to get the quarterback, and
right.
Then when he finally does get him, he'll be over the hill and washed up, and it'll be his worst season of his career.
So terrible. I don't want to see it happen to Terry McLaurin. I like Terry McLaurin.
Yeah. DJ Moore.
DJ Moore he's kind of teetering between that good and average. He's a great wide receiver, but we got some volume issues that we're about to be faced with. And so I'm gonna stick with good, which is kind of below where I kind of want him. I believe he's a great wide receiver. I do like him a little bit better in best ball based on cost than I would in a redraft where you've got to decide to shove him into a lineup every week. That offense has got a little bit of a volume problem that we're going to have to see a big jump from to make it worth the investment.
He's got a little bit of a cost problem at this point. I'm outpaced just on the cost. I think he's being drafted at or above his ceiling. Chris Olave.
I'm going to put him in the great category. He's he put up really similar numbers to Garrett Wilson last year, and with what I feel like was just a bad quarterback play. Now, Garrett Wilson's was more of a revolving door, whereas his was just stuck with a red rifle for most of it. But he put up numbers. He integrated himself in the offense. He learned just enough from Michael Thomas. He kind of separated himself from the rest of the pass catchers quickly and easily. I think good things are ahead for this guy, and at the cost he's at right now, I believe he belongs in this tier.
I know Zach Wilson was terrible, but I didn't find Mike White being that much worse than Andy Dalton. So I agree. The quarterback play was at very worst comparable.
Yeah.
Next on to one of the more polarizing receivers, George Pickens.
George Pickens. He's in the average range for me right now. I love the highlight reel catches. That's all fun and games. That doesn't put points on the board consistently every week.
No.
There really weren't huge spike weeks. You're dealing with, again, not a great volume thing. I mean, what did Kenny Pickett have last year? 7 passing touchdowns.
Yep.
You've got to limit the scoring a little bit. And if you don't have those touchdowns to go with some of the circus catches, you're not putting points on the board. So he's kind of in that range for me right now until I see some growth from Kenny Pickett, some growth from that offense, and see if he can work his way into a more meaningful, consistent role.
Michael Pittman.
This is going to get me crucified. I'm putting him in the average range.
I like it.
He's someone that I've had a hard time coming around to and a hard time endorsing as the kind of cost. And is he his team's wide receiver 1? Yeah, but that doesn't make you a wide receiver 1. And I haven't seen enough from him outside of volume to suggest that he's an alpha level. He's got room to grow, I think.
Anthony Richardson at quarterback's probably not going to help either.
Probably not.
Calvin Ridley.
This is a tough one because Calvin Ridley, before his struggles mentally, before his gambling, Calvin Ridley would have belonged in the great category. I would say I'm going to put him in good right now because I still remember what he's capable of, but he's got almost 2 years worth of rust to knock off and to get back in football shape, separating himself from defenders and doing so with a new offense and a new quarterback. So I might be too high on him at putting him in that tier right now, to be honest. He's someone I'm a little more skeptical of, a little gun shy.
Yeah, I'm not buying back in either. I might be wrong on it, but everyone's assuming he's just going to walk back in and be what he was. I don't think he is. It's 2 years later. I get it wasn't an injury issue, but he's 2 years older now. So I'm not.
Deshaun Watson wasn't out for injury either. When he came back, he looked like crap.
Very good point. And that's at quarterback, which is probably mentally it's tougher to come back from, but physically, I think quarterback would be easier to come back from than receiver.
Physically speaking, yes, for sure.
Yeah. Debo's
great. Debo's great because he's versatile. He can score from 2 different directions. He can be completely schemed into the offense regardless of what defense is being shown. I think he's great. I do think relying on him just as a pass catcher and not this gadgety do-it-all kind of guy is where people get a little overboard. Like, he's not going to be a 30% target volume guy. He's not going to be deep threat guy. He's got that versatility that makes him able to put up points in a variety of ways.
Spicy. If that's how you feel about him, I think you're going to own him in a lot of leagues. He's not all that high in the ADP right now. Moving on to someone who is Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith, great.
Yes, he is. I'm on Ross St. Brown.
I'm struggling to not put him in elite. I'm going to put him in great. He is someone that I was slow to come around on. The end of his rookie season obviously was super hot, and I attributed that to he's the only show in town. He's the only receiver. I'm not buying into him, and his cost kept going up, and I was like, I'm not buying into this guy. I'm not buying into this guy, and I was absolute flat 100% dead wrong, and I'm not making that mistake again. I actually went back and watched some of the games just to see it, and he manages to get open. He's a good possession style guy. He can get downfield. He can do all the things, and if I'd have watched more of him play football than just look at the numbers, I'd have made a different decision. So I'm definitely in on Amon-Ra moving forward.
He feels like he might be the bridge between elite and great.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton.
good.
Ooh, really? I kind of thought typically Cortland Sutton's been the first person in one of the bottom two tiers. You're higher on Cortland Sutton than consensus.
I like the big-bodied guy with a Russell Wilson and also with a Sean Payton. His name just skipped out of my head for a second. I believe that we're going to see better things this season from Russ Wilson, which means better things for everybody that has to catch a football thrown by Russ Wilson. And Cortland Sutton is at a discount right now, and that makes it worth taking another look and getting some more exposure to. I do believe he's a good receiver. He's just doesn't have all the traits that make him as explosive as some of the others, but I do like him.
Next up, we have the person who is actually Jalen Waddle.
Yes, Jalen Waddle. I would put him in great. He would be easily a wide receiver 1 for any other team that didn't have Tyreek Hill on front of him. Yes, and it's hard to ignore that. I love the player. I love his enthusiasm. I love his dadgum speed. He's just fun to watch. I love Jalen Waddle.
Christian Watson.
I don't know if you saw this, but I actually put this on Twitter this morning. Is he just expensive Gabe Davis?
Oh, Lord. Oh, boy.
I mean, that's how I feel. Like, I think he's a good receiver. I think he's got some really special traits, but I don't know. I'm going to put him in average because I haven't seen enough to formulate an actual opinion. Is he big and fast? Yes, he is. Big and fast doesn't always work. Did it work with Aaron Rodgers? Yeah, it did. A Hall of Fame quarterback sure did. That's not the situation he's walking into this year. So
Where do you want him?
I'm going to put him in average. You're still laughing at me, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Did you say you tweeted that? Good Lord.
I did. I tweeted it as a poll.
I don't disagree with it. I'm just saying, boy, did you probably get blown up.
I didn't. That's the weird thing. I didn't get blown up. People just either answered and moved on, or one person said, "Well, no, he's not," but it really didn't. I was expecting negativity too, and I didn't get it. People are just answering the poll, I guess.
What'd you do? Tweet it in the middle of the night when everyone was asleep?
Good Lord. I tweeted that this morning. I think that was my first tweet of the day. Awesome. Like, good morning.
That's awesome. I love it. Mike Williams.
Mike Williams is good. I want to be higher on him, but I'm going to put him at good.
Yeah, the injuries. And to wrap it up, Garrett Wilson.
Elite.
I can't argue that.
I think we're into it. We're going to see he put up, what was it, 1,103 yards last year with Zach Wilson, the ghost of Joe Flacco, and, the White Knight himself, Mike White. I mean, just a revolving door of people, and he did it with those guys. He's going to have a Hall of Fame quarterback throw into him, and the sky's the limit. I cannot get enough of him right now. He's just too expensive to get in many places as I'd like to have him. That's the problem.
Looks to me like wide receiver is probably pretty deep. There's a definitely a solid elite tier I'd really like to have. But after that, there's about a group of maybe 20, 24 of these guys where they're all pretty close in value. Well, thanks for joining me, John. You want to take one more chance here to tell everyone where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, you can find my Dynasty work over at DLF, that's dynastyleaguefootball.com. When the season starts and the DFS kicks off, you can find my work over at fantasypros.com under the DFS stuff. And you can follow me on Twitter at John_Hesterman. I tweet stupid stuff all the time.
Like Christian Watson is expensive Gabe Davis.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I don't agree or disagree with it, but all right. Well, this has been my tiers on the best ball wide receivers with John Hesterman. Once again, I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and this has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thank you again to John for joining me, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a good night.